Vice President Mike Pence made a big stop in Janesville today. He was joined by House Speaker Paul Ryan, Senator Ron Johnson, and Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Tom Price. NBC 15's Hannah Flood was also there, and she joins us now live in the newsroom with more. Hannah?
Meredith, it's fitting that the Health and Human Services Secretary joined the Vice President in Janesville today because there was a lot of talk about health care and the Republicans' mission to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. Today, Pence is saying Republicans are working on their full replacement plan. He says the Trump administration is working closely with Congress to make sure no Americans lose insurance during the transition. The VP says, like auto or life insurance, healthcare costs could go down by allowing insurance companies to cover Americans across state lines. He says Republicans are also pushing for states to have more control over coverage. Pence says the repeal plan should start rolling out in the coming days.
And it's just going to start happening in just a few days. We're going to repeal Obamacare once and for all and eliminate all its mandates and taxes and intrusion into your personal lives and into the lives of your business.
Before his remarks to Blaine's employees, Vice President Pence, Speaker Ryan, Senator Johnson, and Secretary Price had a listening session with local business owners and farmers. They talked about cuts in regulation and the administration's plan to create jobs. A lawyer that works at a firm in Janesville was at the listening session. He said he felt optimistic about the new administration and was happy to talk to them from a small business perspective.
But I think it is just fabulous that he came here, not just because he's a friend of Paul Ryan. He came here because he understands that small business in Janesville represents small business in the Midwest.
President Pence also drew attention to President Trump's address to Congress on Tuesday, saying his remarks are a roadmap for Americans to see how Republicans will keep their campaign promises. Meredith?
Good evening. I'm Meredith Barrick. John Stofflet has tonight off. We begin with today's big story. Vice President Mike Pence visited Janesville today, speaking with business owners and farmers. He was joined by House Speaker Paul Ryan, Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Tom Price, and Senator Ron Johnson. And not everyone in Janesville was happy with the visit. We begin our team coverage with Hannah Flood, who joins us live from the NBC 15 newsroom.
Meredith, many of the remarks Vice President Pence made today echoed what we heard from President Trump at his address to Congress earlier this week. He addressed a room of more than 200 Blaine's Farm and Fleet employees today. There was a big focus on repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act and bringing the cost of health care down. The VP says the Trump administration is working closely with Congress to put together a plan that won't cause people to lose their insurance. He says the federal government has taken over too much control of health care, and Republicans want to give some power back to local leaders.
We're going to allow states to have the flexibility to craft state-based solutions that will work for the people of their individual states. What will work in Wisconsin is better designed by the people of Wisconsin for the needs of the most vulnerable in this state.
In a listening session before his remarks, Pence talked about cutting back business and environmental regulations, which he says could create jobs. He also talked to small business owners about what the federal government can do to stimulate local economies. Some Janesville business owners say they expressed their concerns over the rising cost of health care for their employees.
Secretary Price and Speaker Ryan and Vice President Pence were all committed to doing something about it. So I think everybody came out of there optimistic, thinking something's going to get done.
Other topics the vice president discussed today: Trump's nomination to the Supreme Court, tax reforms, and veterans. The VP says with Republicans working together in the administration and Congress, he's promising that Americans will start seeing big changes on Capitol Hill and here in Wisconsin. Meredith?